The stranger in the corner of the bar was loud. Voices, music, and the smell of strange drinks filled the air. Yet, in the far corner, one man sat alone. He didn't move much. His chair never shifted. His legs rested under the table, still as stone. Some aliens whispered about him. Others just stared for a moment before looking away. Lysera noticed him the second she walked in. She was from the warrior caste of her people, tall, strong, proud. Her silver eye scanned every face in the room, but the human in the corner drew her attention. Not because he looked dangerous, he didn't even stand, but his eyes. They were sharp, focused, like he could see right through her. She tried to ignore him at first. She ordered a drink, spoke to a few friends, laughed at a joke. But every time she glanced toward that corner, she found his gaze on her again, calm, steady, unblinking. Finally, curiosity won. She walked over. "You have been staring at me," she said, folding her arms. "Why?" The man's voice was low, almost too quiet for the music around them. "Because you keep staring at me." Her lips twitched. She was not used to anyone talking back so easily. Most people respected her status or feared her strength. This man didn't seem to care. "You don't stand," she said, letting her eyes drop to his legs. "In my culture, that means you are weak." His expression didn't change. "In my culture," he replied, "that means nothing." For a moment, she didn't know what to say. She studied him more closely. Now dark hair, strong shoulders. Hands that rested easily on the table. Not tense, not nervous, just ready. A group of rough-looking aliens at the next table overheard them. One of them laughed loudly. "Careful, warrior. That human can't even walk. What could he possibly do for you?" Lysera smirked, ready to agree until the human spoke again. "I can do something you can't," he said, still calm. The table of aliens leaned closer. "Oh, and what's that?" one of them asked. "Make her forget her own name," he said simply. The group roared with laughter. Lysera froze. She didn't know if she should be insulted or intrigued. Something in his tone wasn't arrogant. It was confident, like a man who had nothing to prove but already knew the truth. One of the aliens shoved his chair. Big words for someone who can't stand. The human didn't even spill his drink. "Big legs don't make big skill," he replied. The insult hit harder than expected. The alien growled, but Lysera put a hand on his chest. "Enough," she said, her eyes still on the human. She pulled out a chair and sat across from him. "What's your name, Jace?" "I am Lysera." "I know," he said. Her brow lifted. "You know?" He nodded. "I saw the way everyone moved when you walked in, respect and fear. You carry yourself like someone who has never lost." She tilted her head. "And you think you can make me lose?" His lips curved in the smallest smile. "I think I can make you feel something you've never felt before." The words were dangerous, almost a challenge. She didn't back down from challenges. "Then show me," she said. Jace leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping so only she could hear. Not hear. Too many eyes. Too many ears. Her heart gave a single, sharp beat. She didn't know why. He wasn't moving toward her. He wasn't even standing. But something about him made the room feel smaller. She sat back, studying him. There was no rush in his manner, no begging for her attention. He was the one in control without lifting a single foot. She didn't realize she was smiling until she caught herself in all her years among warriors. No one had looked at her the way Jace did, like she wasn't a title or a fighter or a symbol, just a woman worth knowing. Somewhere deep inside, Lysera felt the smallest spark of curiosity turn into something hotter. She didn't know it yet, but this night would change everything. And the man in the corner, the human who could not walk, was about to show her why strength didn't always come from standing tall. The challenge-Xia leaned back in her chair, her silver eyes locked on Jace. The room still buzzed with noise, but for her, it had gone quiet. She had faced warriors twice her size, fought duels in the ring before hundreds. But somehow, this human who never left his seat felt like a new kind of opponent. "You talk like you can prove something," she said, her voice steady. Jace's gaze didn't waver. Not prove, show. Her people believed in trials games to measure skill, speed, and dominance. But these trials always demanded movement, power, and strength. She decided to give him one of those games, convinced he would fail instantly. "You know of the sensory match?" she asked. His brow lifted slightly. "No, it's a game of reaction. The challenger must read every tiny movement, every shift in breath or heartbeat, and respond before the other knows what they feel. It's how my people choose partners in battle. And in life." His lips twitched into a faint smile. "Sounds interesting." She raised a hand, signaling the bartender. The alien behind the counter brought over a small silver box. When Lysera opened it, rows of smooth stones, each a different color and temperature, lay inside. The game was simple. One player touched the other with a stone, and the opponent had to react in a way that matched the exact sensation, temperature, texture, and emotional tone without looking. Lysera slid the box toward him. "If you can match me 3 times in a row, I will admit you have skill. Fail once, and you admit you were only talking." Jace glanced at the box, then back at her. "Fine, but we'll make it interesting. If I win, you owe me a night of your time." Her eyes narrowed, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. "Deal." She took the first stone, cool and smooth like ice on glass, and pressed it lightly to the inside of his wrist. She watched him closely. Most people reacted too slowly or guessed wrong. But Jace closed his eyes for less than a second, then slid his fingers across the same stone in the box and pressed it back against her wrist exactly the same way, even down to the slight angle of pressure. Her brows drew together. "Beginner's luck," she said. The second test, she decided, would be harder. She chose a warm, slightly rough stone. The texture was like sun-baked sand, the warmth gentle but steady. She touched it against the sensitive skin near his thumb. Again. He didn't rush. He waited just long enough to feel it completely, then matched it perfectly. The warmth, the texture, even the weight to it was as if he had been trained for this. Her throat felt dry. She pushed the thought away. For the third test, she wanted to trap him. She picked a stone with an almost imperceptible different school at the edges, but with a faint heat in the center. Most challengers missed it. She pressed it just under his jaw, where the skin was thinner. Jace's hand moved to the box. His fingers ran over several stones before he chose one and pressed it against her skin in the exact same place. Cool at the edges. Heat in the center. She froze. Around them, a few aliens had gathered to watch. They whispered among themselves, some grinning, some shaking their heads. "You cheated," she said, though her voice didn't sound convinced. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. "No, I listened." She tilted her head. "Listened to you," he said simply. "Not the stone." Her pulse jumped. "You read people," she said slowly. "I read you," Key corrected. For the first time, Lysera felt her confidence falter. The sensory match wasn't just a game, it was a way to open yourself to another person without realizing it. And he had done it without moving from his chair. "Your turn," he said. Her hands moved toward the box, but she hesitated. This wasn't supposed to feel like this. Her skin was still tingling where he had touched her. And her mind was turning over his words again and again. "You think you've won already," she said. "I know I've won," he said, not arrogantly, but with quiet certainty. The rest is just for fun." The crowd around them chuckled, sensing the tension. Lysera wasn't used to being challenged in this way. Her victories were usually physical, loud, decisive. This felt like losing in silence. It was far more dangerous. She finished the round quickly, but the result didn't matter. In her mind, the game had already shifted into something else entirely. When the last stone was set down, Jace leaned back, his eyes still fixed on hers. "I'll take that night of your time now," he said calmly. She should have refused. She should have walked away. Instead, her mouth formed the words she didn't expect to say fine. The watching aliens murmured in surprise. Lysera stood, her mind racing. She didn't know if she was leading him somewhere, or if he was leading her. One thing was certain: this human, with legs that could not carry him, had already stepped further into her world than any warrior before. The first lesson, the walk to Jace's private quarters, was strange for Lysera. She led the way through the narrow metal halls of the spaceport, yet it didn't feel like she was leading at all. His voice, calm and measured behind her, seemed to guide the pace. Every time she glanced back, his chair moved silently, powered by some sleek human design. His eyes never wandered from her, not in a predatory way, but in a way that made her feel as if he was already reading her. Next thought, she had agreed to give him a night of her time. In her culture, that could mean anything: a drink, a story, a fight, or more. She wasn't sure which Jace had in mind, and part of her hated that uncertainty. Warriors liked clarity. They reached a quiet door. Jace pressed his palm to a small pad, and it slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was dim, lit only by a few golden strips along the walls. No weapons hung here, no trophies, just a table, 2 low seats, and a strange arrangement of objects she didn't recognize. Smooth metal spheres, lengths of silk-like cloth, and small containers that gave off faint scents. "What is this place?" she asked, stepping in. "Where I teach," Jace said, rolling forward. "Teach what?" she asked with a smirk. "Stone games." He gave the smallest shake of his head. "Teach people to understand themselves and each other." Her laugh was short. "And you think you can teach me?" "I know I can," he said, his tone as calm as ever. "But only if you listen." That last word landed in her chest like a small weight. She had commanded armies, shouted orders over the roar of battle, but no one had ever told her to listen. In that voice, low, certain, unshaken, he gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit." She sat, leaning back with arms folded. "First," Jace said, "stop trying to win." Her brow furrowed. "That is all I know." "Exactly," he said. "You fight, you push, you dominate, but you never receive." Her lips curved into a half-smile. "Receiving is weakness." "No," he replied. "Receiving is trust." For a moment, she didn't answer. She wasn't sure if he was wrong, or if he was too close to being right. He reached into one of the containers and pulled out a small, soft cloth. "Close your eyes." She hesitated, her warrior instinct screaming against it. But something in his voice pushed past her pride. She closed them. "Now," he said, "don't think about what's happening. Just feel it." She felt the brush of the cloth against the back of her hand. It wasn't strong. It wasn't fast. It was slow, deliberate. She could feel every single fiber move over her skin. "What do you notice?" he asked. "It's soft," she said. "What else?" She frowned, focusing. It's cooler on the first touch, then warmer when it lingers." A pause. "Good," he said. "Now tell me, how did you react?" She thought for a moment. "My hand twitched." "Without me meaning to." "Exactly," he said. "Your body speaks before your mind does. That's the language I read." She opened her eyes, studying him. "So that's how you won the sensory match." He didn't confirm or deny it. Instead, he reached for another object, one of the smooth metal spheres. He rolled it into her palm. It was heavier than she expected and faintly warm. "Hold it," he said. She did. "Now, tell me what changes." She waited. Slowly, the heat in the sphere grew. Her fingers adjusted their grip without her realizing. "It feels like it's breathing," she said. "That's you," he replied. "Your heat, your pulse." Her eyes narrowed. "You're trying to make me self-conscious." "No," he said. "I'm making you aware." The difference in words sent a strange ripple through her. Awareness wasn't something she often gave to others. She was the one in control. Yet here, she was letting him lead without a fight. Jace leaned back slightly. "Your people think strength is in the body. Mine know that strength is in understanding. If you know how someone breathes, how they react, you can lead them anywhere even if they're stronger than you." She swallowed the weight of his, meaning settling in. "And," he added, "if you know how to listen, you can please someone better than any display of force." Her eyes stayed locked on his. She wanted to challenge the claim. She wanted to laugh. But instead, she found herself wondering what it would be like to test it. "Prove it," she said quietly. The smallest smile touched his lips. Lesson 2. Then? He didn't touch her directly this time. He only moved his hand to the table. Between them and let it hover, palm up. Slowly, she placed her own hand in his. His grip didn't tighten. His fingers didn't move. But she felt an odd warmth, not just from his skin, but from the stillness, the patience. "Your turn to listen," he said, and for the first time in years, Zira realized she wasn't preparing for her next move, she was waiting for his. The night turns dangerous. The lesson ended not with words, but with silence. Zira still had her hand in Jace's, her mind unusually still. She wasn't used to feeling this way, grounded yet alert, as if she had been shown something important, but couldn't name it yet. Then the air shifted. It wasn't just a feeling, there was a faint vibration through the floor. The kind you only felt when trouble was walking your way. Zira's eyes narrowed. Her warrior's instinct came back in. "An instant? You hear that?" she asked. "I feel it," Jace replied calmly, his gaze flicking toward the door. A second later, the sound became clear, heavy boots. More than one pair, moving fast down the hallway. The dull thud of armored feet, the clinking of weapons against metal belts. Zira was already on her feet when the door slammed open. 3 aliens from the rival Bloodfang clan burst inside, their faces marked with the crimson tattoos of their rank. They were bigger than Zira, each carrying an energy blade. The leader's yellow eyes locked on her instantly. "There you are," he growled. "The debt you owe your clan is still unpaid." Zira stepped forward. "This isn't your ground. You have no—" She didn't finish, because the second alien lunged. Her blade was out in a flash, steel meeting energy with a sharp crack. The room lit with sparks as the fight began. But the third Bloodfang wasn't looking at her. He was moving toward Jace. Zira's gut tightened. Jace didn't move, didn't even flinch. His hands stayed on his chair's controls, eyes fixed on the attacker as if studying him. The alien raised his blade. "Now," Jace said softly. It was only one word, but it was timed perfectly. Zira spun, catching the attacker's arm just before the blade came down. She twisted, pulling him off balance, and drove her knee into his chest. He crumpled to the floor. How, she started to ask, but another blow came for her head. She blocked again, ducking low. Left. Jace's voice cut through the clash. She didn't question it. She moved left, and the leader's blade whistled past her where her neck had been a heartbeat ago. She countered with a slash across his side, forcing him back. Jace's voice came again, steady, precise. 2 steps back, now down. She obeyed without thinking, and the second attacker's strike passed harmlessly over her shoulder. She kicked out, sending him into the wall. It hit her then he wasn't giving random directions. He was reading them the same way he had read her in the sensory match. Every twitch, every breath, every shift of weight they couldn't hide from him. One by one, the blood fangs fell back. The leader snarled, holding his side. "This isn't over, warrior. Your human won't save you next time." The door slammed behind them as they retreated. The sound of their boots fading down the hall. Lysera lowered her blade slowly, her breathing heavy. She turned to Jace, who sat exactly where he had been when they entered. "You didn't move," she said. "I didn't need to," he replied. "You did the moving for both of us." Her brow furrowed. "You were giving orders." "Not orders," he said, shaking his head. "Information. You're fast, but speed means nothing without the right timing." She stared at him for a long moment. "You used me like a weapon." He smiled faintly. "No, I let you be a weapon. You're good with a blade, but you react on instinct. I made sure your instinct was in the right place at the right moment." Heart was still pounding from the fight, but not entirely from the danger. There was something about the way he had taken control not through force, but through clarity that made her feel both frustrated and impressed. She slid her blade back into its sheath. "If I had been alone, I'd have fought them off anyway." "Maybe," Jace said, "but you might have bled for it. I made sure you didn't." The words hit her deeper than she expected. In her culture, bleeding for victory was normal, even honorable. But now, for the first time, she considered that maybe survival with no wounds was the greater victory. "Why help me?" she asked quietly. His answer was simple. "Because I don't like watching people waste their strength." She didn't reply. Not because she didn't have an answer, but because she wasn't sure she wanted to give it. The silence stretched, heavy but not uncomfortable. Finally, Jace turned his chair toward the table again. "Lesson 3 will wait. You need to rest." Lysera gave a short laugh. "Rest?" After a fight like that, he met her gaze. Exactly after a fight like that, something in his tone left. No room for argument. And for the second time that night, she found herself doing something she never thought she would. Letting a man who couldn't even stand tell her what to do. But deep inside, she knew it wasn't weakness. It was something else. Something she couldn't name yet. Secrets in the dark, the door to Jace's quarters slid shut with a soft hiss, sealing out the noise of the port. The silence that followed felt different, now heavier, but not in a bad way. The earlier fight still pulsed in Lysera's veins, her body alert from the clash. Yet her mind was somewhere else. Jace moved his chair toward the far side of the room, where a low light cast long shadows against the wall. "Sit," he said quietly. Lysera stayed standing, arms crossed. "You give a lot of commands for someone who can't walk. And you follow a lot of them for someone who claims not to be led," he replied without looking up. The words hit sharper than she expected. She sat without another comment. JC reached for a small device on the table and adjusted it. The hum of the port faded even further, replaced by a soft, steady sound like distant rain. "White noise," he explained. "Keeps our voices private." "You think your enemies are listening?" she asked. "I think your enemies are listening," he corrected. Her eyes narrowed. "You don't know anything about my enemies." He turned his chair to face her fully, and in the golden light she could see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, marks not just of age, but of someone who had lived through too many close calls. "I know enough," he said. "The blood fangs aren't a group you just happened to run into. They were looking for you." Lysera said nothing. He waited a moment, then continued. "You could tell me why, or I can guess. My guesses are usually right. Her pride told her to stay silent, but there was something about the way he spoke direct. Calm, without pressing, that made keeping secrets feel unnecessary. My clan made a deal with them, she said finally. I broke it. They want repayment. Or blood. Jace nodded, as if that was all the confirmation he needed. Repayment is easier. Her eyes narrowed. You think I can just hand over credits and they'll leave me alone? No, he said simply. I think repayment can take many forms. Power, leverage, favors, information. His tone made her curious. And what do you know about leverage? He gave a faint smile. Enough to be alive when I shouldn't be. She tilted her head. How did you lose your legs? The question hung in the air for a moment. She half expected him to deflect, but instead his gaze turned distant, like he was looking at something far away. There was a ship, he began, full of civilians, caught in a crossfire between two fleets. We weren't supposed to be there. It was neutral territory, but things got messy fast. I got them out. And, she pressed. He looked at her again. And I left part of myself behind in the process. She frowned. That's it? No details. He shrugged. You want the details? You'll have to earn them. She let out a small, humorless laugh. You think you're a mystery worth solving? No, I am, he said. His confidence was infuriating, and yet, she couldn't stop herself from leaning forward slightly. And what would I get if I solved you? Jace didn't answer right away. Instead, he picked up one of the smooth metal spheres from earlier and rolled it between his hands. The soft glow of the room reflected in its surface. You'd understand why I can do what I do. Why I can read you without trying. Why I can keep you alive without ever picking up a blade. Her throat felt strangely tight. You talk like you know me already. I know enough, he said softly. Enough to know you've never let anyone carry the weight with you. You've always been the one protecting, deciding, leading. I also know that's exhausting. She froze. It was the kind of truth she didn't like spoken aloud. You don't know, she began. I do, he interrupted gently. And I'm telling you, you don't have to with me. The room was quiet again, save for the soft sound of the white noise device. His words seemed to linger there between them, as if waiting for her to pick them up or push them away. Lysera found herself standing before she realized it, crossing the small space until she was right in front of him. Her silver eyes searched his face, looking for any sign of deception. There was none. You think I can trust you? She said. I know you already do, he replied. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. And in that silence, she realized something unsettling. He might be right. When she finally spoke, her voice was lower. If you betray me, human, there won't be enough of you left for anyone to remember. I believe you, Jace said. And for the first time, his smile reached his eyes. It wasn't victory. It was something else. Something that felt like the first crack in a wall she had spent her whole life building. The ultimate test. By the next evening, Lysera had made up her mind. Jace had won their sensory match, read her in battle, and peeled away pieces of her guarded self in that dimly lit room. But part of her still refused to believe it was real. Her people had a way to find the truth. It was called the bonding Trila ritual, so personal that even warriors avoided it unless they were sure. It wasn't about combat, speed, or strength. It was about connection, trust, and the ability to feel the other as if you shared the same heartbeat. Among her people, to fail, it was to admit you didn't belong at someone's side. No outsider had ever passed it. She found Jace in the same corner of the port lounge, his back to the wall, a half-finished drink on the table. He looked up as she approached, and that same unreadable calm was in his eyes. I have a challenge, she said without sitting. His mouth curved slightly. I thought you'd run out of those by now. This one, she said, leaning forward, will prove whether you are who you think you are, or if you've just been lucky. He studied her for a moment. All right, what's the game? It's not a game, she replied. It's the bonding trial of my people. We stand, she caught herself, glancing at his legs. We face each other, and one leads the other through touch alone. No words, no signals. The follower must match every motion, every shift of intent without hesitation. Jace's eyes didn't flicker. And the point. The point, she said, is that no one can fake it. You either feel it or you don't. His gaze held hers for a long moment. Then he nodded once. Let's do it. She took him to a quiet training hall deep inside the port. The floor was a wide, open circle of smooth black stone. No distractions, no noise. Just space for the trial. 2 circles were marked on the floor. She wheeled him to one, then stepped into the other, facing him. The space between them was small, close enough for her to reach him easily. Close enough for the air between them to feel different. She raised her hands. The leader begins. I'll lead first. You follow. He lifted his hands to meet hers. The first contact was simple, just palms together, light pressure. But the trial was never about strength. It was about listening through the skin. She began, slowly moving her hands in subtle arcs, shifting weight from one side to the other. The goal was for him to mirror her, exactly as if they were one, to her surprise. He did. Perfectly, she changed the rhythm, faster, sharper, still perfect. She added twists, reversals, shifts in pressure meant to throw him off. He matched every one, not late, not early, exactly on time. Her heartbeat picked up. She increased the difficulty again, layering emotions into the motions her. People believed touch carried mood. She pressed with challenge, then with gentleness. Then with something warmer. His responses didn't just match, sometimes they felt like they anticipated her. As if he knew where she was going before she did. It was unsettling. After several minutes, she stepped back, breath a little faster. Your turn to lead, she said. Jace leaned forward slightly, his eyes never leaving hers. When his hands moved, they were slower than hers. Had been, but every movement felt deliberate. Carrying a weight she couldn't ignore. The moment she touched him, she felt a shift. It was as if his hands spoke in a language she didn't know she understood. His motions weren't just physical. They pulled her, guided her. Not with force, but with a certainty that made her want to follow. She matched him. At first out of pride, but soon because she had to. Her body responded before her mind thought. She realized she was breathing in time with him. Her heartbeat aligning with the subtle pulses of his grip. He shifted the pressure, and her pulse jumped. It was as if he could feel her reactions through his fingertips and adjust. Instantly drawing out responses she didn't intend to give. She tried to break the rhythm to regain control. He adapted without a pause, folding her stray motions seamlessly. Into the pattern, it felt dangerous. When it ended, they were both still holding each other's hands. The air between them was charged, thicker than before. You passed, she said quietly. Almost reluctantly. Of course I did, he replied. Though his tone wasn't arrogant, it was matter of fact. Like he had simply known all along. She stepped back, breaking the contact. No outsider has ever passed. Then maybe I'm not an outsider anymore, he said. Her eyes narrowed. Don't assume this means anything. It just means you're different. That's all it's ever meant, he said. And the faintest smile returned. She turned to leave, but part of her knew something had shifted. The bonding trial wasn't just a test, it was a truth teller. And it had told her that this human, paralyzed legs and all, could match her not just in skill, but in something far more dangerous. The warrior's choice the next day. The main hall of Zyra's clan was alive with noise. Warriors sharpened weapons, traders argued over goods, and in the center, the council sat in their elevated seats, watching everything. The Bloodfang clan had sent word they were calling for Zyra's exile unless she paid her debt in blood or in service. The elders demanded she appear before them to make her choice. Zyra walked into the hall, her silver eyes scanning the room. Behind her, Jace rolled in silently. No one had invited him, but no one stopped him either. The memory of the previous night's fight had spread fast. Rumors of how the broken human had helped her take down 3 Bloodfangs without lifting a weapon. The Bloodfang envoys stood near the center, their leader glaring. "Your warrior owes us," he said, voice echoing in the hall. "She will come with us, or the alliance is broken." The eldest council member turned to Zyra. "What say you?" Zyra's hand rested lightly on the hilt of her blade. "I say, no warrior of my people belongs to outsiders." The envoy's lip curled. "Then she dies." Before anyone could react, Jace's voice cut through the noise. "She's not going anywhere." The crowd shifted, murmurs rippling through them. The envoy's eyes narrowed. "You speak for her, human?" Jace met his gaze without flinching. "No, I speak for myself. She's mine." The words landed like a thrown blade. The hall erupted. In shock, Zyra turned toward him sharply, ready to protest, but the look in his eyes stopped her. It wasn't possession, it was protection. One of the council elders banged a staff against the floor. "Explain yourself, human." Jace's tone stayed even. "I don't care about your debts or your politics, but I do know this 3 of your Bloodfangs came for her last night, and they lost. They'll lose again. She doesn't need to hide behind your alliances when she already has someone who will keep her alive." The envoy sneered. "And what can you do from that chair?" Jace didn't answer with words. He only looked at Zyra, and she felt that same strange pull as during the bonding trial, like he could guide her with nothing but his eyes. Then he said softly, "Show them." Without hesitation, she drew her blade. The envoy's 2 guards stepped forward, ready to intercept, but she moved first. In 3 swift motions, she disarmed both, sending their weapons clattering to the floor. The crowd gasped. Jace single quotes' voice came again, calm as ever. "Now tell them why." Zyra turned to face the council. "Because he sees every strike before it comes. Because he can make me faster, sharper, deadlier than I've ever been. My people value strength above all, but sometimes strength is knowing when to follow." The elders exchanged glances, clearly unsettled. The bonding trial was sacred, and every warrior in the room could see in her movements that she had been through it, passing it with an outsider. It was unheard of. Finally, the eldest elder spoke. "Zyra of the Iron Line, what is your choice? Will you settle your debt in blood, in service, or in exile?" Her answer came without hesitation. "Neither. I choose him." The room went silent. The envoy stepped forward, fury in his eyes. "You choose a crippled human over your clan's honor." Zyra's voice was steady. "I choose the one who has matched my every move, who has read my thoughts. Before I knew them, who has stood with me against you and your kind without fear. My clan's honor is safe in my hands and in his." The council elder's gaze swept the hall, reading the crowd. Warriors who had once mocked Jace now looked at him with something closer to respect, or at least curiosity. "Then, so be it," the elder declared. "By the right of warrior's choice, your debt is settled. Leave here together, or not at all." The envoy spat on the floor, but said nothing more. The Bloodfangs turned and left, their boots echoing angrily against the stone. When the hall Empty Lysera stood beside Jace, looking down at him. You didn't have to say I was yours. He met her eyes. I didn't say it to own you. Said it so they'd understand if they want you. They have to go through me. Her lips curved into a rare smile. And what if I want to go through you? His answering smile was small, but certain. Then I won't stop you. They left the hall side by side, warrior and human, leader and listener, both knowing the choice she had made was more than just defiance. It was the start of something neither of them could fully name, but both were ready to face.